We thought it was radical, didn't we? And then part two, COVID hit. Then we really start to look at radical reinvention. So COVID hit and our focus shifted. We moved our research focus. We decided not to just go for the negatives, but go for the positives. How can we understand and sustain the benefits of COVID-19? And that was really cool to conduct those interviews. 87% of senior leaders said they reckon their organisations were agile in responding to COVID. This is a quote from a financial institution. We've thrown a lot out the window that we've realised we simply don't need. We now need to redesign our ways of working to enable our people to catch up with the amount of transformation that COVID-19 has driven. Huge transformations. 63% of organisations have improved their innovation. We heard amazing stories, and I'm sure you're hearing it. Look at us today, looking at how much time I've saved by being able to stay at work, although I know where I'd rather be. Improved productivity. Here I can keep going. I can work in 2 places at once. But it's not just about Zoom. There have been productivity improvements all over the country in almost not every institution, but the large organisations. Now remember, this is corporate Australia that was the subject of this research. It was not small and medium enterprises. It was not mums and dads businesses. It was the big money corporates that are the subject of this research. So they were the organisations that had the funding to stay in business when those first early hits arrived. One of the examples to give you here is one of the interviewees was telling us that their IT, their information technology department, had a 3-year plan. I think it was about 6 or 8 projects to fulfil in the next 3 years. That was back in February or January. They had achieved all of those projects within 6 months of COVID having hit. Look at that amazing innovation, the amazing productivity, that sort of thing. Now, we also look at, well, what happens to those people? Does that mean IT doesn't have a job anymore? Are they going to invent new projects for them? Okay, we need some psychological safety as well to be able to have those conversations. 32% of the organisations we spoke with improved their psychological safety. There was almost no question about it for many leaders, in that suddenly for the first time they're seeing inside the families and the homes of their employees. Their executives that had previously worked hugely long hours at the office, only ever seen behind a desk. Now the questions were asked: where do you live? Do you have internet access? How's your laptop? Do you have at home? Suddenly, this soft exterior was almost thrust upon them. Some did it better than others. I know of some managers who just found it was a terrific opportunity to just hide, and they didn't have to deal with anything, and they didn't have people coming into their office. Well, their HR departments have been telling them a lot about improved psychological safety since then. So, going back to our leader, our avocado leader, and I'm just keeping an eye on the time. Okay, we've got the hard and we've got the soft. On the hard exterior, we've got decisiveness. We've got the pandemic increased the speed and confidence in decision making. We decided that any decision was better than no decision when the pandemic was hitting. Leaders said the crisis forced them to think and act fast, and as a result, the pace of the pandemic quickly and visibly separated the good from the bad. Managers were able to very quickly work out who was on board and who was not on board, and we just didn't bother spending time with those who were not on board. At middle manager level, the crisis pace demanded an increase in trust. Once we have to go remote, you need more trust. You need to just rely on that person doing the job. And that empowered an even broader collective of employees to make the necessary decisions to keep the business moving forward. We've yet to see how that reintegrates back into business as usual when those employees come back to the office and are then more heavily supervised than they have been for most of the year. On the other hand, empathy, COVID-19 not only blurred the lines between the home and office, it also brought the mandatory duty of care. Health of our employees was a requirement. Empathetic skill development became a key focus of capability building, with leaders tasked with authentically demonstrating care, understanding and support for both their teams and their own well-being. Suddenly, they had to really care about those employees who were scared of coming into the office. In our instance, who was scared of catching a train or catching a bus to work? How were they going to be able to get to work? Where were they? In many instances, they created new car parks so that employees were able to drive themselves if they had to come to the office. In terms of connectedness, internal networking and coaching sessions, cultural team building activities, we found that leaders are now reporting a stronger and more human connection with their employees. My own son works for a large corporate that has very plush offices in the city. However, he hasn't been there since the end of February. But one of his managers recently came out to the suburbs, and about half a dozen of his colleagues who work in this general area had lunch just near the uni, Denny. You would probably know the restaurant where they had lunch. These are really different behaviours that we're seeing from leaders. And leading organisations are now looking to capture those behaviours that were observed during COVID and building it back into the values of the organisation so that leaders can understand the behaviours that were so essential during that emergency time. Okay, noting what the time is, I've only got a minute or two left. How can we grow AVOCADO or ALPUKAT leaders? All right, three things really. We need to reset our expectations. We need a balance between the hard commercial acumen, results-driven, and the soft empathy and emotional intelligence needed to create psychological safety. Leaders need to create an environment that helps employees share their ideas, disrupt and challenge, but not at the expense of business priorities. The art is to skillfully ask for challenge, and if you disagree, then explain the business reasons why. We need to reset expectations about what leadership behaviours are required to deliver on strategy, and we need to hold leaders accountable for those. We need to build capability to manage the hard with the soft. So we need to upskill those managers in how to have those soft skills. We need to develop a business case for investing time in those soft skills. Because let's face it, a lot of those finance people don't want to spend money unless they can see a direct line output, can they? Leaders who demonstrate empathy, authenticity, and emotional intelligence can help the organisation accelerate growth, innovation, and create an environment where the best ideas win. And last, we need to hold leaders accountable. Greater appetites for transparency and accountability is leading some boards to hire a psychologist to give feedback at their meetings. Transparency drives performance because it helps leaders understand what behaviours to prioritise over the rest. If you can get transparency right, you can get a competitive advantage. The key for any organisation is to stick with it. Nothing will change if you're not prepared to hold leaders accountable for being leaders. All right. So, at the start of the presentation, I promised you a gift. Even though I'm all the way here and you're all the way there. So, my gift is, what should I do with rotten avocados? What should I do with rotten ALPUKATs? You know, when they've had a few days extra in the bowl and you should have eaten them yesterday or the day before, or worse, a couple of days ago? Okay, so this is what you do with them. Here's a recipe. Turn them into yummy chocolate brownies. Okay? The future of leadership requires balance. Too soft, and we will never get the executive buy-in or investment. If it's too hard, we will continue to build cultures that inhibit psychological safety, growth and innovation, and will continue to appear like that example on glassdoor.com. So, can I urge you, take a screenshot or have a look at the video, the recipe later. Eat yourself some avocados. Think about the hard and the soft skills that are required in this. Is it post-COVID world? Think of what we've learned from COVID, and I wish you well. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you so much. It teaches us how to become the very, soft leader, but also hard leader with complete kind of soft and hard skills. It's really, really nice. I think we need to have a look at the paper that we just talking. If you have published it or you have the access to the paper.
Sure.
Yes, and also